Okay, so today we are going to have a very quick look at a very handy little animation from CDX showing us a hydraulic power assisted steering box. So just for components very quickly, we have a pump down here, input shaft here, which is connected to a torsion rod and the control valve and the worm gear itself. So anytime the input shaft turns, we do have movement with the control valve, torsion bar, and corresponding movement in the worm gear. When the worm gear moves, it's going to act on the ball bearings, which are going to act on the piston here, the sliding piston. We call it a power piston. Okay. It is going to be toothed to the sector shaft, which is of course connected to the pitman arm and the steering linkages that actually turn the wheel. So the input shaft connected to the steering wheel itself, okay, through the steer shaft. And then our sector shaft is our output out to the wheels themselves and the corresponding linkages. So anytime this wheel moves, it's going to turn the input shaft and the torsion rod and the worm gear shaft, act on the ball bearings, and move that power piston back and forth inside of the housing. The hydraulic component of this action is an assist or a multiplication of that torque that's being inputted by the driver to make it a lot easier for them to turn the wheels with a lot higher force. Okay, so our output force is going to have some multiplication to it through the hydraulic pressure. And these actually operate, despite looking quite complex, it's relatively straightforward. So as you turn the input shaft, it's going to change the position of the ports inside the control valve, and we're going to have pressurized fluid go to either one side or the other of the power piston, at the same time exposing the return ports from whichever one is not being pressurized back to the reservoir. So here we're all the way to the right, so we have pressurized fluid coming into the control valve. Because we have it turned to the right, it is being allowed to pressurize this side of the power piston, which is going to aid the movement of the power piston acting on the sector shaft. It's just going to make it easier to move that direction. As we go back to the left, you will see the hydraulic pressure will be redirected into this port, and it will fill up the backside of the power piston cavity, which will help aid us as we move left in a minute here to bring it back the opposite direction. So you can see that happening now. And we go back to the right. And all that we're really doing here is changing which side of the power piston is being pressurized hydraulically in order to multiply and assist our steering input on the input shaft. So that valve and its movement is directly controlled by the input from the driver as he turns the wheel. Basically, we're exposing or closing off different ports within the valve and the valving and the shaft itself in order to direct that fluid on one side or the other of the power piston. And of course, we'll get into a little more detail at the magic that's going on in here and how that torsion bar absorbs the bumps and undulations in the road, but still offers the driver some connected feel in the steering through a physical connection that still is there. And we'll get into that a little bit more in class.